afternoon, everybody. It's really wonderful to see you here on this Friday afternoon, heading down to the weekend. It is my pleasure to welcome you here today. This is episode 3 of our Lessons in Leadership, and I'm delighted to welcome, we've got a double whammy today, so we're blessed in that we've got 2 guests today in the form of Philippa and Tom Charrier. Hello, Philippa and Tom.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm very good, and very good to see you here. Philippa and Tom run the most amazing property development company called Fat Properties. And the reason I'm excited to have them on my show today is that they've demonstrated to me that they live and breathe being purposeful leaders, and leaders who have a purpose over and above the actual financial results of their property, so of their business. So I'm really interested to talk to them further about that. So lovely to see you here today. I'm really interested to find out from you a bit of background and history as to how you got to be where you are now and the success of your company. Who's going to start?
We both come from architectural and design backgrounds. Philippa trained as an architect to move into urban design. I was a landscape architect, also moved into that field as well. So all our professional careers had been around creating environments for people to live, good, successful lives. We did a lot of kind of urban regeneration work in Manchester. We moved abroad for a couple of years to Sydney, doing the same thing, and then came back here. And I'm sure we'll get into kind of parts of this later, but ultimately chose to start our own business in property developing, property investing and developing. And we spent a long time looking around. And when we kind of looked at the student accommodation sector, what was abundantly clear was that it was a sector that had not moved on in a very, very long time. There were just a poor level of provision on the whole, not all of it, but on the whole, very poor. Hadn't moved on since we were at uni, and it hadn't moved on, at that point for a long time as well. There was a huge need. There's an enormous need. Students, what's the stats? 1 in 6 say they don't have proper friends. We spend 90% of our time inside buildings, over 65% of that in our homes. All these statistics around how much time we spend in buildings, how important buildings are to our well-being, to our quality of life. And what was clear was that this was a sector that was crying out for change. And we knew that with our background, we could make that change. So
that started, and I was pregnant at the time and had a tiny little toddler as well. So we were looking at all these awful houses, looking to purchase something and start this business. And I had one on my tummy and I had one on my hip, and I was looking at, where these kids essentially just left home, were living. And as a mother, I was absolutely horrified to see that, this shouldn't be right. This shouldn't be allowed. And we understand the links with mental health and where people live. And in our background, so in architecture and landscape architecture, we've been designing this way for so many years, and then we come across to student accommodation and we're in a different world here. Nobody's on board at all, and nobody's seeing the link that 1 in 3 students have a mental health issue. But nobody was looking at actually where are they living, what are they doing. We've got all this a lot of property developers now are selling the exclusivity of students being able to live in studios, and they can be so beautifully fitted out with all the microwaves and whatever else, but they're micro living. They don't actually get an opportunity to meet other students. So you sort of think you're going to university, where you think, my experience of university was a very much, you're with lots of friends and you're meeting people. It's an opportunity to meet some of your closest friends.
Yes.
And here we were looking at, actually, this doesn't add up. you know, in the
yes.
elderly, we're talking about social prescription and making communities and making them be able to meet people. But then with our young, we were just completely segregating them. So that's really how it started, how it started, yeah.
The great connection that you made between the whole mental well-being element and, you know, a different model to the model about, because what you've described in those studios, they sound so self-isolating. Absolutely. And, you know, student life, my memory of student life is you want to be out there, you want to be socializing, you want to be mixing people, and yet it's can be quite anxiety provoking. So being in a studio is going to take you away from having to meet people. So you also saw the opportunity, because I remember student accommodation. Oh my God, you know, the ice on the windows, freezing cold, not particularly nice at all. You've seen that opportunity and you've really done some amazing things with the houses that you've converted and designed, actually. I mean, to be honest, I've looked at your Instagram and I think, oh, I wouldn't mind living there. It's really, really lovely what you've done, really inspiring spaces. So I really want to acknowledge the intention behind that in terms of supporting quality of life, quality of mental health, all those elements that are going to support students to enjoy and make the most of their time at university, which is such an important part of their growing up, really. So what do you feel, therefore, that you stand for as leaders, having tuned into that? What really drives, what's the purpose that drives you forward?
I think, I mean, kind of stepping up a level from kind of what we do, I think for us as leaders, it's about identifying and articulating our values and what's important to us, and why. Hopefully attracting people, you know, whether that be employees, consultants, partners, suppliers, customers, attracting people who align with those values and really just trying to remain true to them, focusing on them, which is easy when the going's good, but trying to remain true to them, you know, all the time when, you know, things can get tough or there are economic pressures or whatever it may be. And you want to cut corners and you want to, you know, oh, let's just do this and let's do that. And, you know, I think for us, it's about saying, this is the mission statement. This is what we're going to go and do. And look, some people are going to like it. Some people might not like it, might be interested. That's fine.
It's interesting as well, because we've been approached by quite a lot of people to work on projects that don't actually align with our values, and approached by investors that want to invest with us, but again, their values don't align with ours. And you know, you could be quite, you could quite easily get into something that, well, actually, oh, we're earning money and, you know, that's great and that's food on the table. But we've had to look at it and actually just check out, because we're both creative people, so we're very excited about different opportunities that come our way. But actually saying, no, hold on, we can't do that. That doesn't align with what we stand for. So there's been quite a few opportunities, things that have come up, and we've just been like, no, we can't. We need to just stick with what our values are, and just, you know, always focus on that.
So that's a great example where I'm hearing really clearly that by having a clear purpose, being really clear and aware of what your values are, that really helps you make choices and decisions very easily about who you're going to work with, what projects you're going to work on, what's going to fulfill your standards as designers in terms of what you deliver here. So being a value-centered leader actually makes it easier. So on one hand, people think it's more difficult to live by your values, but what I'm hearing is it's making your life easier by being clear of your values.
100%. I think that's what was the catalyst for us back when we kind of been running the business for a little while, and then we said, okay, we're going to step on the gas, we're going to ramp it up, and really make something of this. The point at which we articulated our values properly, and we worked with some branding consultants that we know about, uncovering those and articulating them well. that was the catalyst for change. A, because the marketplace could understand it, and B, like you just said, it gives us a decision-making framework. We're no longer spending time and headspace trying to work stuff out. It's very simple. Well, you know, this is the direction we're going in. We've already spent time working that out. Is this helping us go there or not? You know, it's super simple.
And it's our bigger mission. It's our bigger mission of changing the space of student accommodation and actually getting the design for well-being and ensuring. I mean, I keep saying, you know, we're parents on a mission. We're on a mission to actually change what developers are doing and what universities think are acceptable, and just really getting the message out there that this shouldn't be allowed. This is our future that we are putting in these spaces. And, you know, through lockdown, we're understanding, everybody gets it now, that, you know, our spaces impact on our well-being. I mean, everybody understands that. And we were writing this book before lockdown. You know, it was released in lockdown, but we were writing it and we were just like, you know, the one good thing that's to come out of lockdown is that people please understand this, that we need to actually do something here. I'm seeing it now with the students. You know, there was something yesterday about Manchester University caging their students in the halls to not let them get out because they obviously don't want the spread of COVID. And you think, what is going on? This is just craziness. So I think with our bigger mission, that this is our mission, that we want to, you know, we want to get the message out there about student well-being and designed for well-being. And then everything that fits alongside that, the work that we're doing, you know, it does give us a focus.
Just gives you such clear focus. That's what I'm hearing, and also helps you navigate those difficult times as well, because you're so clear about this is what we're here for, this is what this is, and this is how we want to do it from the values perspective as well. Okay, so this Facebook Live is all about lessons in leadership, which you've shared already, some great lessons there for all of us. But I'm also interested in you as individual leaders and your own leadership journey. So I don't know who wants to go first, but what I'm really curious about is a turning point moment for each of you that really shifted you in some way. And it could be it shifted your view of something. It could be it shifted a belief that you held, but it still affects you now and still shows up in what you're creating in your business. So I don't know who would like to go first. Take your pick.
Okay, so with me, I would think I've already sort of talked about, you know, I was looking around these houses and I had a baby, you know, I was pregnant at the time and I had my other child on my hip. So, I mean, I think that was a real turning point in terms of actually, here's our mission. These are our kids here that I've got here. The kids
see the future.
This is our future, but also these adults, young adults in these houses, you know, this is my mission. So that was, I think, was my real mission. I think beneath that as well was very much, unfortunately, my mum died at this time as well. So there was quite a lot going on emotionally for me with being pregnant and having a child and my mum not being with us. And my mum was such an incredible woman that was very much, everything was about other people. It wasn't about her. There was nothing about her. She was put on this in her mind, you know, she was put on this to sort of to look after other people. So all the work she did was voluntary work. She did, you know, she was an incredible woman. So I think in the back of my head, through all of this, throughout everything that we're doing, I always think, what would she have done? What would she do? And I had a car crash when I was younger, and I was in my early 20s, and I was bedridden for a long time. And even at that time, when I probably wanted her to, you know, mother me and look after me, she was like, well, come on, think there were other people that were worse off than you. And she always was able to change your thinking. So you weren't thinking about yourself. It wasn't about you. It was about other people. There's always somebody worse off than you. Now you help other people and that sort of mentality, which
it's really embedded an element of being of service,
absolutely,
and supporting and contributing to others.
Yeah, and the whole, you know, you're on a mission. You have to do something, and you have to. It's not about you. It's not your ego. It's not you. It's help other people, and that's sort of, so that's really, I think, embedded in me. And I constantly, you know, daily, I think, well, what would my mum do? What would she? How would she respond to this?
And you say it out loud as well. We'll be talking about, you know, things, challenges, obstacles, decisions, whatever it might be, and know that is a, you know, a genuine question.
And I know,
you'll ask and we'll think about it.
Like with these university, what's going on with these halls at the moment? My goodness, she would have been angry. And if I was one of the students in these halls, she would have been bashing the barriers down, and she would have been in there, and, you know, and saving the student. And that's how I feel now. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, if my children were in there, or other people's children. And I think it's that maternal thing that, you know, comes through to the business as well, which is
it brings out the lioness in you, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, don't mess with the mother.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it.
Tom, and what about for you?
You know what, this is amazing timing, because yesterday I was on a kind of business mentorship session that we have, and we were thinking about people's stories, and we were encouraged to think about kind of events in our lives, and I suddenly, literally yesterday, just joined the dots between different things that happened in my life. I was remembering, you know, my early childhood, you know, being a kid. All my memories are, you know, happiness and love and family and holidays and camping and doing loads of fun stuff. When I was, I think, 11 or 12, my dad died. We moved across the country. I didn't really like the house we lived in. I didn't really like where we lived. I'd grown up in Yorkshire, had a super broad Yorkshire accent. We went down to the south. It was just, you know, I wasn't a bad kid, but it was, you know, I just didn't gel, you know, and it took me a long time to kind of find, you know, better and good friends. And I suddenly kind of joined the dots yesterday that, like, I couldn't articulate it or realize it at the time, but it's this realization that, when, you know, your environment and your surroundings and who you're with and the quality of time you're able to spend with people is enormously impactful on your life, on your quality of life, on how you feel, on the decisions you make. And it was only, I mean, you know, relatively recently, you know, that we decided to articulate that. And it was only yesterday that I suddenly thought, oh my God, like that's kind of where the stemming for me of the connection between environment, people, and quality of life, where it starts to come from. And then, you know, on the more business side of things, we had, you know, we're both creative, we both have an entrepreneurial drive, and we've been thinking about, oh, you know, we want to kind of do something on our own. We've both been in full-time employment for, you know, large firms for a long time. And we toyed around with different ideas. None of them had really stuck, fortunately, in retrospect. And we began Fat Properties. Even then, I was still working full-time. And it was a kind of, you know, slow building thing, wasn't it? And I'd never really been in a work environment where I looked up to my leaders and the bosses and the CEOs and whatever, and thought, I admire you to the point, you know, I want to be in your shoes one day. Never ever thought that. And, you know, it just always felt like I was just building and grinding and working for someone else ultimately. And the final straw I remember one day was Philippa called me at work and had a medical, you know, kind of minor medical emergency. I was in a relatively senior position in this company, not a huge amount on, to be perfectly honest. It was a relatively quiet period. Listen, guys, I'm going to I've got something I've got to deal with now. I'm down in tools. I'm gone. everybody can take care of, what I'm doing. There's no issue. I came home, Philippa was resting at home. I took the kids out. And within, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, my boss was on the phone saying, I got to finish all this stuff, all this work. And even now, like, it makes me angry, I just thought,
watch your words.
I will watch my words, but how dare you? How dare you? I have worked. I've been working on my summer holidays, preparing for stuff. We'll go off with the kids, believe me, I was in credit with the work and the effort and the hours I'd put into that place. And, I've been there for many, many years. And in my one time when I needed, hey, I've got something I've got to go and take care of. No, get back here and do this work. And for me, that was it. That was the switch flicked. I was like, that is an absolute turning point. There is no going back from here anymore. My respect on a human level is frankly gone. We're now going to build our thing. Like, this is it. This is the launch pad. Like, we are, as Phil talks about, the mission to give. And
yes,
I'm on board with that as well. And, but like, Phil's driving that part. And my part was like, well, now I'm on the mission to build this thing, this engine that can deliver the mission.
Yes.
And that was, even now, God, it gets me going. I just couldn't believe it. And
that's a few years ago as well.
It's like 4 or 5 years ago now, yeah. But that was the impact it had. And it really was. It was like a switch flicking. And talking about leadership now, I just think, imagine the horror I would feel if someone thought that about me.
Wow.
If I did that to someone, my God, that would just be one of the worst things I can imagine. That makes me think, right, I want to learn, how to, I want to be a good leader. I mean, look,
a good, effective leader. I mean, I just want to say, you've both talked about lack of role models in that respect, but what I'm noticing is what amazing role models you both are for being congruent, for living a life and running a business that's incongruent. I say incongruent, it's in congruence. You are congruent. I'm trying to get the language right. You are congruent with your values. So you're living consistently with your values. And that is serving you on so many levels. But what I hear from both of you is how passionate that also causes you to be. And also wanting to, using your experiences, as you've both demonstrated so strongly here today, using your experiences to really learn and help you move forward and choose how you want to be and who you're going to be as leaders. So I just want to acknowledge that today, because I think it's coming through really, really clearly in what each of you has shared. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm completely inspired, and I'm sure people watching this are going to be completely inspired as well when they're watching it back. And we'd love you to share your comments afterwards if you're watching this back. So I have a final question for you. And while you're answering the question, I've just got to plug my laptop in, because otherwise I might lose battery. But what I want to say is, in your final question, we're going through these really significant times of change at the moment. The pandemic is ongoing. It's uncertainty. We don't know about what's around the corner. What is your advice from each of you to leaders in today's world, this world of uncertainty? What sort of advice can you pass on from your own experience?
I would, first of all, is looking after yourself. I know that we've talked about giving and a lot of giving. And one thing that we're noticing in the pandemic, we had lockdown. We've got 3 kids. So in the first lockdown, we were homeschooling all 3 children, working from home, and and trying to make the business, we didn't know what the future of the business. We had no idea what was going to happen. So, but I think unless you've got your health and you're able to, we need to take notice of this as well, because we've got Designed for Wellbeing behind us, the book. We need to take notice of it, because unless you've got your own health, you can't fulfill it. You can't do anything. You can't. achieve your goals.
Got to keep your resources topped up is how I view it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's often about physician heal thyself, isn't it? So the things we might be touting around are the things we need to be practicing ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
So,
and we are our worst. We're just terrible at that, aren't we? So we read our book. We were writing our book, and we're like, what is all this? And we were up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we hadn't seen our friends. We hadn't seen, we hadn't been eating well. We hadn't been exercising well. So I think we need to listen to that advice as well. But it's just make sure that you can't do anything unless you're 100%, especially of your parents as well. It's just making sure that
it's putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others with theirs. That line that they say on the airlines and things.
It's quite hard to sort of take notice of because, as I've been saying before, it's all about other people and looking after other people. But I think we can't do that until we actually look after ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And final words from you, Tom, on that? What advice would you pass on?
I would echo that. And I think part of it, certainly for me, is just focusing on what you can control, because there is so much right now. You pick up your phone, all it is Donald Trump or COVID, right? And there's nothing good, on the news, and there's so much potential anxiety, potential stress, potential worry, financial, whatever it may be. And I think what I have to tell myself as well is just focus on what we can do and what we can control, because otherwise, you can't.
Yeah, very wise words
as well, isn't it? Just don't be so critical and so harsh. I mean, we do this all the time, but it's always just allow you to have some time off, or just rubbish on TV.
Yes, and practice some self-compassion is what I'm hearing. Really important. Listen, you have been the most fantastic guests. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure what you've shared will resonate with many people who look through this video after today. Thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I'm going to say goodbye to everyone watching at home. Thank you so much for joining us. Do watch next week at 12 noon for Lessons in Leadership, when we'll be interviewing another very dynamic leader who I know I've got her lined up at the moment. I'll be letting you know about her next week. Very dynamic leader who's also going to be sharing her lessons in leadership. Do join us then, Friday at 12 noon. Thank you, and bye for now.